Hi, I'm Trinidad Aguirre here with the Chamber of Charlotte. Thank you for listening in on today's podcast. I have the pleasure of hosting, or not hosting, interviewing. That's been a long day. Michelle Ochoa, and she is the founder and CEO of Vendors. It's an event management app for pop-up vendors and event creators. Now, she has launched the Vendors app with the mission to support small businesses, which we all love, and facilitate the process of organizing events. She's also a consultant for Zeal IT Consultants, and she has worked with several companies here around town in Dallas, including iStation, HKS, Greyhound, and TradeStation. Welcome, Michelle, to today's podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so you kind of got my resume version of me. I was born in California, and then moved to the Valley actually when I was about three. Lived there for quite a while, and then lived in Arlington actually until I was about 13. My dad got a job up in Indianapolis when I was 13, and moved the whole family up to Indianapolis. So it was quite the culture shock at 13. And this was like, oh geez, I'm going to date myself. So this was like 1997, 96, 97, somewhere around there. And it was quite different. It was just not like Texas. I was one of three, I think, brown kids in the whole school. And so it was challenging, and so I spent my, formative years there. So I'm kind of like half Texan, half Midwest, person. I graduated there, and then I lived in Phoenix for 4 years. And then I moved back to Indiana, and now I'm here. But Dallas has always been home for me. Dallas is really, I've always had family members here, no matter where I've, been. I've kind of, my anchor has been here, and it's always, been calling me back. So this is where I feel the most comfortable. I think I am, deep down, I'm a Texan. So
when people ask you where you're from, have you always said, I'm from Texas? And then
but then I do kind of say, well, I lived half my life in Indiana, in Indianapolis. We called it Indy. I mean, it was a great experience. I met a lot of really great people there. It's very warm, as not warm as in the temperature, but the people are warm.
Yeah.
I've come to appreciate them more and more since I've been gone.
So you said your formative years. So has that really helped cultivate what you have today in terms?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of being an entrepreneur is like having thick skin, being resilient, being able to adapt. I think that's what really shaped me. It made me the person I am. It made me really strong, and just push through any kind of challenge that I've had. And honestly, just kind of not care what people think. I think that's like one of the biggest things is just stop worrying about what other people think or what they're doing, and kind of focus on you and what your vision is.
Correct. I mean, so like talking about thick skin and not caring what people think, would you say that is that what's really helped you battle through, like, especially today's COVID times, right?
Yeah.
And with the event industry and most folks trying to get back in together, it's okay, mask, not mask, touching people again, all the whole thing.
Yeah.
How's that really pushed you into what you do? What drives you in terms?
Well, we launched Vendors in the middle of the pandemic. And, we had started working on it pre-pandemic. It was actually probably, I think it was like November of 2019. So it was almost 2020. And I actually pitched my idea, which I had already had for a while, and we'll kind of back up to that. But I pitched the app to the company I was working with, Zeal IT Consultants, just at one of our socials. And they said, oh, this is great. Like, we should, let's partner, and we're going to build it. And we had our in-house kind of incubator where we trained interns and some of the consultants that are on the bench to build the product. And so like I said, we launched in 2020 and had no idea, obviously, that this was gonna happen. And we're an event app. Our app is about being in person and going to these pop-up events, which I love to go to. And I became a vendor at this time too, and so I started to really understand the unique problems that vendors were facing. and that some of the event creators were facing. And so it was pretty uneventful when we launched because, there isn't a lot going on, but we did actually partner with a local event creator here that was a friend of ours. His name's Barry McCary, and he runs Dated Faded Worn in Deep Ellum. He has an actual store in Deep Ellum, and he's been doing these vintage events, vintage vendor events for several years, and he helped us pilot the app. His event was the very first event that we had in the app, and people loved it. They just said, wow, this is so much easier than, getting a DM or, using a Google Sheet or, having to pay a stranger on PayPal. They're like, why didn't this exist before? So yeah, and it's kind of been upwards ever since then. We've slowly gained some traction, as things open back up. But now I think there's a lot of interest in it. A lot of interest. And I think a big part of that is that there's, throughout the pandemic, I think a lot of people are desperate, and there's a lot of scammers out there that were looking for a quick buck. And so unfortunately they were taking advantage of a lot of these small businesses on like Facebook groups and things. Mm-hmm. So they're saying, oh, I'm an event creator. Oh, here, join my pop-up. Yeah, if you want to join, I'll, send you a PayPal invoice, it's $100. And then, it's not a real event. So,
oh my goodness.
So they're taking advantage of these small businesses. And so we saw like a major need for it. And that's why we review all of our event creators in the app. And so anybody coming onto it knows that any of those events that are there are legitimate businesses and legitimate events.
So there's a track history that,
Mm-hmm.
People small businesses particularly can see and said, okay, this person's legit. This event's
Mm-hmm.
been around for a while. Kind of, is there like a rating system for event creators in terms of experience and things of that nature?
Not formally. So like that's kind of what we're trying to disrupt this market because it hasn't been done before. And just being right now, we're manually doing it. So a lot of these vendors have to do this work themselves. So if they're,
Mm-hmm.
looking for a vendor event or they're a brand new business, the first place they're going to go is the Facebook group, most likely, or they're going to go on
Right.
Instagram or something, or they might know somebody or whatever. But most of them are happening in these groups, and they're having to go do their own recon. They're having to go, okay, let me go look at this address, or let me see if this person looks like a scammer. Now there's entire scammer groups on Facebook. And so there are some local folks here that there's a lady that runs it's a scammers Facebook group, and I think her name's Michelle Ochoa. And she's just collected. People just started sending her, potential scammers. And so she's got this group where people just post, oh, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. And so now people have gotten kind of wise to it. But it's a lot of work, to have to do that. And so for us, we're basically doing the work that a vendor would have to do to go figure this out. And then we found out that it's actually taxing on some of those venues. So they'll take a flyer or they'll take a venue and say, oh, we're having it here. And then so all these vendors are calling there saying, hey, is there an actual event going on?
Right.
Is there an event happening on this date? And they're like, I don't know. We've never heard of that person, or we know that there's not an event happening here. So it's actually taxing on their staff. And I never even thought about that as it being an issue.
Sure.
So it's like this domino effect of things that are, happening that's just stressful on the whole ecosystem of pop-ups.
Yeah. So would you say that the event marketing industry is on the uptick as we look for 2022 and beyond?
Definitely. I mean, right now I can go down a black hole on Instagram and find 10 new pop-ups that I've never heard of or seen. And I think a big part of it is that during the pandemic, a lot of people, tried to find extra ways to make money. They lost their jobs. They had more time. Maybe they were at home. A lot of them said, either they start pursuing something they always wanted to do, or they kind of just had to be resilient and figure something out. Mm-hmm. And then they realized, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this, or I can make money at this. And some of them took it really seriously. And now this is what they do full time. So you see all these people that are traveling all over the country. I mean, I talk to vendors all the time. This is all they do. They travel all over the country going to pop-ups. Full-time job. That's what they do.
So when you talk about pop-ups, it's literally next weekend I'm just going to host an event, or Can you unpack that for you for the folks?
Yeah, so it could be like we just did a vendor event for the chamber,
right?
For the Cinco de Mayo event. There was actually a vendor there. She was from California. She just happened to see on Facebook or something about the event and said, "Oh, I'm going to join this event." And then she saw that it was on Vendors, and so we actually talked to her, and she goes, at first I was like, "Oh, this is just another app. Oh, I got to download this thing." And she goes, then once I got into there, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is great. Like, why wouldn't it be great if like they were all here instead, and me having to search all over the country or all these different websites or all over these groups or whatever to try to find these vendor events." And I was like, yes, that's my vision. And so, but yeah, I mean, that's really what a lot of these people are doing. I mean, that's what they want to do. They're pursuing their passions of, she sells different types of clothes, vintage and other things. But you have people that, make all sorts of knickknacks, handmade stuff and like art and you name it. Yeah.
So is it like, how do you attract to get people to get to your app today? Like what's
actually most people are finding us through Instagram. I mean, we are a startup. We haven't done a ton of marketing yet.
Right.
And a lot of people is just word of mouth so far. We've had a lot of referrals, people that did use the app and they told their friends who are event creators and told their friends, and that's kind of been the bulk of it so far. And then people are just finding us on Instagram, or they're Googling vendor events or find vendors near me, or how much does it cost to be a vendor at a pop-up. And some of our SEO and stuff is popping up. People are able to find us, find our website and find us,
via the app store. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they type in vendors or something on the app store and they're able to find us.
Is it like, so what makes you so unique? We talked about a little bit about it's easy to use, but what makes it easy compared to, like you said, Google Sheets and Excel document? What makes it, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah. So a lot of these event creators were manually managing their events. So like I was saying, they're using say, hey, you want to join my, register to become a vendor.
Right.
They fill out, typically it's a Google form, or they create a form of their own, or maybe they just have a basic form on their website, but it doesn't collect the payments and it doesn't let them vet their vendors. And it's basically the app allows them to post their event, all of their event details, their vendor agreement, a refund policy. They can upload a picture of their map. The vendors are allowed to pick a space if they choose, or the event creator can assign them later. The vendor comes on and creates their profile, adds their pictures and the Instagram handle, all that good stuff, business bio, and then they apply. And then it's just as simple as the event creator going, yes, you're approved, or sorry, this event is full, or, there's too many vendors in your category. So It lets them, rotate vendors out as well. And then once they're approved, they can buy their spot. So it's just a very seamless thing. It's a lot more automated. They get a notification saying they're approved, and then they can go purchase their space. So it's a great experience for the event creator and the vendor, and it's just saving both of them time. These vendors have to fill out so many different forms, all the questions and the different questionnaires and all that stuff. It's just becomes kind of annoying, like when you have to apply for a job and then, it's like, upload your resume. Okay, but now fill out your job.
All the details.
Fill all your job information all over again. And it's just like, oh my gosh, why can't you just do it? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're just kind of making that whole process better.
It's truly a disruptor. I mean, it's a one-stop shop for something that's a very manual process today. Like, especially in the marketing space, marketers are always looking for easier. For small businesses, especially an entrepreneur, they're CEOs, they're operators, or CFO, they're all the things, right? So you're just literally making a seamless transition, saying, "Yep, I've got aware of goods. This event matches my category of folks. Let's just do it."
Yeah.
So is there like a subscription fee that people have to go, or is it a free app?
So it's free to download for both parties. And we don't have a subscription right now. So it's actually a really great deal. We have no subscription yet, but we will in the future as we build some more features in and make things even better. Right now, it's just kind of pay as you go. So for the event creator, it's $5 per space sold, plus 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction for the Stripe processing fee. So we do use Stripe for our payment processing, which is a little more secure than PayPal. It's a little more legitimate. They have to answer some more questions. They have to connect to an actual bank account and all of that. So it really, they have their own level of, kind of security as well that they would do. So they kind of run your email address and all of that stuff against a list. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's that simple. And so they can choose to absorb that $5 in the processing fee, or they can pass it on to the space of the price of the vendor space.
Talk about value. I mean, that's really a great asset considering what you're trying to do. What's down on your roadmap in terms of like what features are you looking to add?
So some of the next really big ones that we know we've known people need, but we continue to validate these assumptions. The big one is we're adding a cart feature, because right now you can't buy one space at a time. Mm-hmm. So if you're joining multiple event dates, you kind of do check out one at a time. So what we're going to do is create a cart so you can add multiple dates, multiple spaces at a time. Some vendors actually have really big, like they have a lot of stuff. Right. So they'll buy 2 spaces at a time. So we're adding that. And then we're going to be adding a group chat so that the event creator can actually talk to the vendors that have joined. So that way they're able to communicate about everything about the event right there. A lot of times we've gotten so much feedback from these event creators that people just don't read their emails, right? So they're sending them, updates about where to park and, what time to arrive and, when they should, be ready to sell and when they should tear down and all those good details that, are usually kind of get lost in translation. And so they'll be able to communicate all of that, directly in the app.
That's fantastic. I mean, so tell me about a good scale of size. I mean, so large conferences, small events, have you seen a mix?
Yeah, I would say right now our target market isn't necessarily like those really big, flea markets that, where you're renting a space like Trader's Village, right?
Right.
Where you're renting a space for like months at a time and things like that. And so they typically have some software that they use for those really big events, and it is pretty expensive. So our sweet spot right now is the like mid to small, pop-up events or flea markets. So we know exactly who we're trying to serve. And those people are the ones that really, it's like a low barrier to entry. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have one pop-up a month, or they do 2 a year or something like that. And then we do have some markets that we love, where they do markets every single weekend. And they're able to, successfully manage their events, through the apps and just make things easy.
So is your target industry more about, like, for example, either farmers markets or clothing, where those all those ad hoc wares that you see, is that really where you're focused on?
It could be a little bit of everything, honestly. So we have had a couple more like business type of expos and things like that. We have had a few of those. But because I had mentioned that I became a vendor through this journey myself, I also sell vintage. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of started in the vintage community because we were already in the community. And we really understood how those markets were run and our demographic, and we understood them really well. We could talk to them on their level. We could talk to them about like the details and the tags and the shirts and, all of that. And so they get us. And so they've really been our champions. And so a lot of the events that you'll see in the app today are like vintage events. And we do have quite a few actually up in the Midwest right now, because we did one, we went up there with Barry for Dated Faded Worn, and he did an event in Columbus because that's his hometown. And so we were up there on vacation and came down and just sponsored the event, hung out there, and we met a lot of other amazing people in the Midwest that have just spread the word up there. And so now we've got quite a few really great vintage events up in the Midwest.
Where are you is that most of your concentration right now is in the Midwest, or are you?
Yeah, so actually the most vendors that we have the most vendors in Houston.
Okay.
So we have the most vendors in Houston. It's Houston, Dallas, Austin. We have quite a few in San Diego because we have San Diego Vintage Flea Market, and they're awesome. And so we're kind of just trying to get the word out over there.
Sure.
And then we have Illinois Vintage Fest is probably one of our biggest ones up there. We've got Green Bay Vintage Market, Oak Vintage Flea Market. So, and they're all in Wisconsin. So we got Wisconsin, Michigan as well, and Indiana, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you got a little bit of everything. Not any one particular demographic or region, it sounds like, because you love everybody.
Yeah, anyone can use the app. And so we actually have had quite a few chambers as well. So when we first started out, we were reaching out to a lot of the cities and the chambers of commerce. And so we were just doing outreach, like just calling and saying, hey, how are you managing your pop-ups, your community events? And a lot of them are just doing it pretty manually, or they were using some of the chamber software and stuff that they had. But I think now that people are becoming a little bit more savvy, they know how to use QR codes, they know how to, I think we were in this weird transitional period when we first kind of launched and we were reaching out to these folks. And now, almost a year later, they're calling us back and they're going, oh, now I get it. And so we've had quite a few chambers, using it for their events, and we'd love to be connected with the cities, like even these small towns or anything that put on these events. Again, it's super low barrier to entry, and they can manage all their vendors, and it's just easy for them to use.
Yeah, I mean, I immediately think of Main Street Days down in Grapevine as an example, right, where you just have these mega festivals, city run. And it's, being a vendor for those, it's been a challenge, really, because it's a lot of coordination.
Oh, it is. And we're solving just one small problem or one small part of it. So we did that Cinco de Mayo event, and it was a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of people and a lot of coordinating. And we're helping with this little part of it. And if we can take that off somebody's plate, like, we're creating some value there. We solve one small part of your process, but there's a lot. You still got to get the permits, and you got to, get the inspections, and you got to, coordinate the talent and there's so much that goes into it.
Absolutely.
So,
what's been your biggest constraint right now? Like, what's the...
Well, I think, to be honest now, we're officially out of the incubator. And so we are on our own. Dun, dun. Yeah, fire is under us. It's getting hot. So our biggest challenge right now is, kind of creating this awareness. I mean, we need to create awareness that the product is out there. It's available. And so we can continue to grow and scale. And then that way I can, I would love to be able to employ some of my fellow Texans here and hire people and scale the business to become extremely successful. Yeah, that's really what I would like to do. So,
what would you say has been your biggest win so far?
Biggest win. Wow. Sometimes it's, I won the Dallas Entrepreneur Center, as a startup pitch competition, recently, and I won $10,000.
Oh, great.
And so I was really excited about that. But some of the things that get me really excited or make me feel really good, or what makes me get up in the morning, is when I get feedback from an event creator or from a vendor saying, you guys have helped us so much. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know where to start, and we're natural consultants. So whenever we talk to an event creator on the phone, or even just a vendor, they call and talk to us, we're just having a conversation with them, and they're asking us questions, and we're telling them, they're like, well, how can I get into this event? I've applied to it 10 times and they're not getting in. And I said, you just got to get in there early, and you got to make sure your profile looks good, and you got to do this and you got to do that. Hang in there, keep applying. And same thing with the event creators, they're asking us if it's their first one, or how much should I charge, or, all these things, or what's a good place to do my event, and, anything that we can, help people with. And they see that we're genuine. They're going to get a person on the phone when they talk to us. We're available. We're not some big old company where they're not going to get an actual person. So I think that's, for me, that's my personal win, because I feel like I'm making a difference. I'm actually doing something that matters, even if I've knowing that I affected somebody, some person I've never even met in real life,
right.
In Michigan or Wisconsin or whatever. And that makes me feel really good. And so to me, that's the big win.
So event marketing is kind of a unique animal.
Mm-hmm.
So Was it something in your career leading up to this, or it's just you woke up one morning feeling inspired and you know what?
Yeah.
There's this need.
I don't, yeah, it's a little weird. So I used to just like to go to events. So I used to love shopping with these, I used to love shopping with all these like small, businesses. When, I think it was like Taste of Richardson or Taste of Dallas, one of those that I went to. And I bought, it was a guy that made these, it's like steampunk earrings and necklace. And I was out one night having too much fun and I lost one of them. And and I was like, how do I find this guy again? Because I want the set. Like, I want the thing. And I couldn't find this guy's, I don't even know his name. I could forget the business name, all this. And this kept happening to me. So I would like go to these events and I would buy something from one of these vendors that were there. One lady had this like amazing smelling lotion. Mm-hmm. And like, it was all handmade labels and stuff. So like everything wore off. So I couldn't even see the website. I couldn't see all of this. And I'm just like, why does this keep happening to me? So I was like, why isn't there an app where I can like go and see where all these vendors are at and I can save them and I can do this? And so I just had this idea one day and I said, I'm going to build it. I'm going to make this thing. And so that was my initial idea, was actually a B2C app. And so that is actually on our roadmap still. So that is like part of our longer term vision and goal, is so that you're a customer, you're a consumer, you're going to walk into that vendor event and you're going to be able to see all the vendors that are there. And so can I say it's safe to say that before all this, you weren't a mobile app developer. So how did you get the right folks in the right room to execute on your vision? It was tough. So yeah, that's kind of, like I said, I had that idea and I just got it in me and I said, I'm going to find a way to do this. I know nothing about having a startup. I know nothing about entrepreneurship my dad was an entrepreneur. He had restaurants and businesses growing up and stuff. But it was really scary going, I know what that takes. And then I know the challenges in there. And so I kind of put it off for a long time. Mm. But I saw a contest. It was like a pitch competition that was for like idea stage. And because I was looking for it. That's the only reason. Because I was out there like Googling. I'm trying to find something. I'm like, I don't have the money to build my MVP. I don't even know where to start. My background is in e-learning and ed tech. I was kind of working in that field for a long time. So I was used to building custom training, custom software. It was a lot of corporate training and things like that. So I do have background like that, managing teams and people from different, developers and graphic designers, instructional designers, all of that. So I kind of knew what it took to build a thing. But I didn't know where to start, like I said. So I saw this idea. It was a pitch competition. And I submitted it the first year. This was 2016. Okay. I submitted it. Didn't hear anything. Crickets. And so I didn't even know what to really put in my pitch deck. And I kind of like Googled some things and I found some stuff. And then the next year, I was like, I spent that year teaching myself everything I could get my hands on. I started reading books like The Lean Startup, and I started, I got a subscription to Entrepreneur Magazine. I like did all of this stuff, and I went to Dallas Startup Week, and I was just trying to teach myself anything I could. The next year, I submitted, and I made it down to Final 10. Wow. And then I ended up pitching in a room with these two guys, and I didn't make it to the Final 5 to pitch on stage, but I knew that I was onto something. And so that gave me that validation. Fast forward, I ended up working at Zeal, and we have that competition, and I pitched it that night. And I just that's not a normal journey for most people, though. I got really lucky that somebody said, I believe in what you're doing. I can see you're already onto something. There's something here. Right. We're willing to invest in you as a person, not just the idea. Correct. And so I got extremely blessed in that regard. But had that not happened, had I never met them, had I never got that job, I might still just be sitting on this amazing idea. So how do we get people who are in my position that, to be able to have those resources or give them some kind of pathway to do that, to create their vision? I don't have the answer for that. But how do we do it?
Right.
Because I'm not the only person out there. I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and somehow I ended up in the position I am now.
It's a story of resiliency, right? It's like you didn't take no, you didn't quit, and you understood the challenge and you accepted it and you embraced it. And so I think it's a great inspirational story for one, for all the folks that are sitting on the idea, because most folks, will sit on the fear of failure. I'm going to fail, and it's
I feel like that every day, but I'm just like, okay,
right.
Just keep pushing.
Yeah. But even if it's not fully baked out, right?
Yeah.
I tell my teams all the time, it's like, even if it's 90% there, who cares? You'll never hit 100.
Yeah. Stop caring what people think.
That's right.
And just keep doing what is in your heart and speaks to you. And if you're onto something, like I said, you get that little bit of validation. It doesn't have to be perfect. Our first MVP didn't even have vetting in it. It didn't have, it had a bunch of bugs. It was a mess. It was not good. It did what it needed to do. And so what we have now, I would call our MVP plus.
Okay.
It's still not there. That's why, I would love to have, the tools and resources to be able to build out my full vision. Yeah.
Sure. Would you say, okay, so you mentioned you're getting yourself out there and you're absolutely creating great quality. What more do you think you can do? What are the next steps for you? Tomorrow you're going to wake up and say, I'm going to do one thing. What would that one thing look like?
Right now our goal is just to continue to create awareness, get as many event creators on board as possible. And the event creators bring the vendors, especially the ones that are kind of established and they've got a good rapport already with their vendors and they're doing it manually. And so just letting them know, hey, you don't have to do it like this anymore. There is a better option. So that just trying to get them to see that value. And I think once they actually try it, then they're like, oh, this is way better. So. Well,
let me ask you this. Who do you think your biggest competitor is? Because in my mind's eye, it's folks like Eventbrite.
Yeah. And so Eventbrite is, in a way, a competitor. But the way they don't have that same, it's not just for vendors. Right? They don't have that same, the vendors don't come on and make a profile and they don't do, it's not that kind of relationship sort of thing. They're more geared towards ticketing. They're selling ticketing. That's their roadmap is, there are vendor events on there, but it's not really their main thing.
Okay.
But I would say there are some other, businesses that are kind of similar. But I feel like what makes us really unique and differentiates us, for one, is that we are reviewing all of our event creators. So that's one thing that I don't see anyone else, taking the time to do. It's yeah, sure, post your event. We don't care. They're not, they're not taking the time to say, this is a good event creator or this is a real person that's putting on this event. So that's one big part. But I think the other part, too, is just that we're vendors. We're event creators. We're just like the people we're serving. So it's not like we're, coming from a place. It's when you have a boss who's like, hey, you need to do this, thing. And you're like, you don't even know how to do my job. Why are you telling me what to do? So you've never done this. So I think that's a big thing. It's who we are and what our culture and our brand and what we're trying to do is very unique to the people we serve.
And I think your advocates, your brand, your organic brand ambassadors are probably screaming your praises.
Yeah.
So over time, it's just going to grow if staying the course, right? Just doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So how do people find you? This has been a fantastic conversation. I love where this is going. I'm really excited for being a disruptor in what most folks don't consider a disruptive industry, right? Event marketing's always been the way. The fact that you're going in and making splashes is fantastic. So how do people find you?
So right now you can go to www.vendorzs.com Vendorzs.com, and it's VENDORZS. It's spelled with a Z and an S at the end. I know it's weird, but everyone spells it wrong. But if you Google vendors with just a Z, you'll find us. So you can go to our website. You can go to the App Store. We are on iOS and Android right now. So you just type in Vendors and you'll find us there. And you can also follow us on Instagram. So it's at Vendors Official. So that is our Instagram. And that's our main way that a lot of people find out about us and kind of see some of the events that are coming up.
And they can DM you.
They DM me. If they DM the vendor's account, they're usually talking to me. So we also have our vendor's client success account. And so that is our main client success manager, Brian.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for today's conversation. I wish you many successes and in your near future, hopefully.
Thank you.
And my name is Trinetta Gary. This is another session of the Chamber Chala, so thank you very much. Thank you again, Michelle.
Thank you.